Ron Klain, you heard the president. He's done everything correct in his estimation, but it was you guys, the Obama crowd, that left the cupboards bare for when they arrived.
Yeah, so virtually everything the president said today was a lie. We can start with his attack on H1N1. Let's just go to the numbers. More Americans have died of COVID in 10 days than died from H1N1 in an entire year. The HHS Inspector General found that the Obama administration response to H1N1 was appropriate and right. The Inspector General found that the President Trump has left the hospitals bereft of the supplies they need and the action they need. And I'll say one other thing. President Obama fought H1N1 while dealing with an economic crisis he inherited. President Trump's mismanagement of COVID has led to an economic crisis. So, if we want to go into the record business, I think the record difference is really clear. The challenge is this. If President Trump wants to reopen the country, it's not just a question of legal authority. It's a question of fighting the disease. And as long as the disease remains raging as it is, the president can say whatever he wants. Consumers won't go back to stores. Workers won't go back to their jobs. Any reopening will be a failed reopening. We need to get the disease under control so it's safe for people to do business and safe for people to go back to work.
Well, Ron Klain, here's this in the New York Times about New Jersey, #2 state in cases of coronavirus. The backlog for coronavirus testing in New Jersey, the state with the second highest caseload in the country, has been getting worse. Initially, the strain came from a lack of test kits, but now there are not enough nasal swabs, not enough nurses. There's a pileup at the labs themselves and a limited supply of the chemicals needed to identify the virus. How can we ever, Ron, have that discussion about going back when we have, as I keep saying, no earthly idea how many Americans are walking around with this virus?
Yeah, Brian, I think it's pretty simple. If the president wants Americans to go back and do their jobs, he needs to do his. And that means fixing this testing problem first and foremost. What's amazing is that Vice President Pence promised we'd have 27 million tests by the end of March. We're barely at 3 million now in the middle of April. Every single promise the president has made has been broken on this testing issue. So it's time to stop standing at the White House podium and show propaganda films and start to stand there and take control of the production through the Defense Production Act, take control of the key elements here, produce the tests. This week the federal government cut funding for testing. I think it's hard for people. They cut off aid to state governments to do testing. The president needs to step up, get people tested so we all can get back to work, get back to our lives.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.